We haven't lost most people. That's brilliant. Right, yep. So, welcome to the Sunday service slot with Peter and myself doing the 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock slot. Yeah, well, it's a bit of a weird thing, really, sort of like a Christian talking about demons, because a lot of the time, if you do that, you're either some sort of wappy, clappy type that sees them around every corner, or you're one of these ones that's on the other end of the spectrum that says these things don't exist at all. I'm not actually going to reveal where I am on the spectrum there. What I am going to do is take you through the historical stuff. So this is what the ancients believe. It's not necessarily what I believe, but it is what the ancients believe. And you might see some things from the ancient times, thousands and thousands of years ago, feed into modern demonological lore, as it were. So, as has been said, I'm going to whiz through that. The only thing is, I do research and write for ghostschoolsandgod.co.uk. That is an output of being furloughed during lockdown. What the heck do? I can't work. I'm being paid not to work. So I'm going to use my time wisely, which was based on my master's thesis. So I did my master's at a place called Cliff College in Derbyshire. It's an evangelical Methodist college. And when I put up my master's title as Paranormal Hauntings and Applications in Deliverance Ministry, a critical investigation, my MA tutor said, well, it's either going to be a first or a fail. And I got 82%, and it won the first ever award for a dissertation because they wanted to sort of honour the effort that had been put into that. So I wanted to share what I found out. So this is some of the stuff that I found out, and I carried on with my research. I'm not a vicar, right? Just in case we get that out there, right? And if you're still sort of like a little bit, well, have you got a collar? No, I'm not ordained either, right? So I do not work for the church. I was employed by them once, but never again. So we're going to have a little warm-up. We're going to play a game, Demon or Not. So, demon or not, you kind of like want to, you can put your hand up, it's a demon, keep your hand down, it's not. Okay, it's interactive, this. I had to put a circle around it in red, okay, just in case. It is a paranormal event, this. So, is that a demon? Okay, some of you are like, some of you are not. Okay, right, cool. Let's move on then. This is Hieronymus Bosch's triptych, The Garden of Earthly Delights, and there is a bit there that's got some incredibly interesting stuff with demons sticking trumpets at bottoms of people and all of that. It's amazing. I'm thinking this guy was on some seriously good stuff. What about this one? Oh. You're going to be contrary. Yeah, okay, cool, excellent. Right, so this is an angel of place. This is kind of, you might call it a genus loci or a genus loci or something like that. What about this? This is a Uraeus. Okay, a few people. So the Uraeus was effectively a being, or a representation of a being, this is, that would be a protector of sacred space and a protector of sacred people, like the Pharaoh. That's why they have them on there. Winged snakes. What about this one? Does anybody know what this is supposed to be?
Some sort of nature spirit.
Some sort of nature spirit. Okay, a dryad type character. No, you're not going to call it a demon? Okay, fair enough. Right, okay, you're not biting either, that or you've fallen asleep. Right, what about this one? Ooh. No, not demons. Can't be demons.
Lucifer.
Could be Lucifer. It's going up into the tunnel of light to the other side. So these are winged escorts, psychopomps. Okay, the ascent of the blessed. What about this one? Oh, who knows? Hands. 10 points to know who that's supposed to be. Pan from the Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Yeah. Okay, demon or not? Oh, some people are going for it. No, okay, fair enough. Right, what about this one? Oh, no, this definitely can't be. This is a seraphim. Actually, if you look at the symbolism of the uraeus, and you know what the seraphim's origins are in the Egyptian uraeus, it's the same thing. This, for some reason, has got bastardized into a human being. These were actually serpentine beings that were supposed to be. Okay, that's basically what the seraphim is. One of the earliest depictions of a seraphim, or a seraph, I should say. What about these? Oh, come on. Yeah, of course they've got to be. Yes, they've got the blue gloves, two by two gloves of hands of blue. Yeah, okay. What about these? Ooh, the Lamassu in the British Museum. Okay, these are guardians of sacred space. These were on the Mesopotamian temples and palaces. What about this one? Oh, come on. That's not Eve.
Lilith.
Well done. Yeah, Lilith. Okay. What about those? No, not demons. No. Okay. This one? Cal. It's not you. Okay. What about this one? Oh, or is he a demon? Because he's been booted out a bit, hasn't he? If you watch it. Oh, spoilers. So effectively, all of these are actually demons. No, they genuinely are, but we are seeing these through our modern day eyes. But if you look at these through the eyes of the original writers of the materials, they would all be classed as demons of some form or other.
So is that demons with D-E-M-O-N-S or D-A?
Wait. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to think like an ancient. You've got to get out of this mindset that we've got that's inherited through Dante, through Bosch, through all sorts of the cultural baggage that we've built up, even to a point of Buffy and Ghost Adventures. We've got to look at the language that they use, the cultural symbolism they've got, the history. All of this is determining whether or not things are these spirits that are, we would now term demons, but were they understood as demons in those past times? So get rid of this sort of like idea that we can kind of, Key of Solomon and grimoires and all of this. We are going way, way, way back to the beginnings of this sort of thing. So the word itself comes from the Greek, daimones, or daimon. And they understood it very differently to today's Buffy-infected demon, exorcist-infected demon. So let's have a look at some demons in ancient Egypt. The created world was understood as being the physical realm and the spiritual realm, and they overlapped, they interpenetrated between each other. Okay? And there were tons and tons of different types of supernatural beings. But there really aren't any precise identifications as such as to what these things are. There's just sort of like umbrella terms, but there's no real definitions that start to come in until much later. Okay, when you get to, when we're talking about ancient Egypt, there is no word for demon. So if you're looking in the magical papyri or whatever that you're looking for original source material on demons in Egypt, you won't find the term demon. There is no word for it. Okay? Scary. There was kind of a difference between gods and demons in the sense of there were these beings that were not the gods but were not humans. Okay, so we could kind of classify, I'm going to kind of say, well, all of this is actually what they would term, what we would term demons, but they would have kind of lots of different names for these things. They wouldn't understand them all as one type of being. Gods received cultic worship, and the demon beings didn't until your second millennium CE, when you're getting into the New Kingdom stuff. But you can broadly group these things into two categories. You've got guardians and protectors of space, and you've got wanderers. The guardians, they're not so bad. The wanderers, nasty bastards, you don't want to come across them. Okay? These basically were identified by function, what they did, not particular names of them. Okay? It could be a malevolent thing, it could be a benevolent thing. Let's look at wanderers. So these things are working on their own volition, pretty much. They're freelancers. They just do their own thing. They're buzzing around in the air. They brought messages from the gods. Sometimes the gods could appear as these things. They brought death, disease, misfortune, unpleasant, bringers of night terrors. So they actually understood way, way back the concept of night terrors, hypnagogic, hypnopompic effects. You've got all of that sort of thing right back 4.5, nearly 5,000 years ago. So when we're talking about it today, we're studying it, you know, Chris has done his research and all of that. They were knowing about this stuff back then. They're border crossers. Liminal. Okay, sorry, Christian. But they go between sort of like the gods and the humans. Border crossers is an interesting term. Travellers is a term that is used in the Hebrew, the Overim, and if you're a fan of Ghostbusters, you will know that Gozer the Gozerian is one of the travellers. That is, behold, the traveller has come. This is all, they're nicking stuff from ancient times. They were the frontier striders, the pioneer type things. I love this word, the Grenzganger Konzept. This is what the English, the closest you can get is a frontier strider. That's all. They brought chaos. They were the chaos beings. Okay, and they went around in packs. Generally speaking, these were not pleasant. You don't want to come across a bunch of these. But the gods can kind of employ them. So Ra and Osiris can get a bunch of these and they can go and do destruction on behalf of Ra and Osiris. They're kind of like the hitmen, while the big mafia boss, as it were, stays away from it all. Agents of divine punishment. So when the gods punished humans, these guys were employed. And they were haunters. You're a wanderer, you might want to take a break. You can find a nice residence, you can take it up. It might be a human, it might be a nice, luxurious residence. Or it even might just be a completely desolate landscape as well. We've only got one depiction of these, the actual Sehakuk. Sorry, I'm going to need my water. Sehakuk, which is the headache demon. So headaches were understood to be caused by demons. And you would just keep them at bay. You would use a petropaic magic. You would ward these things off with amulets, charms, spells. Spiritual domestos, that was what it was, effectively, to get rid of these infections. The guardians, on the other hand, they were tied to a specific locality. So some of you might think, oh, genus loci, that sort of stuff. And they mediated between the order and the chaos. They were trying to keep the order. The chaos, sort of the wanderers, were kind of causing it, kicking it out. And they mediated between sacred and profane. So the uraeus would be one of these beings that would basically, if you approached the king, it was believed to be that you would be rinsed by this thing. If you know the Hebraic seraphs and the seraphim, you'll see a lot of things with snakes lifted up on bronze poles. You'll also see when the Philistines nick the ark of the covenant, they have a little pokey around inside, and the whole thing just goes, it talks about snakes and that, just loads of them dying. If you actually know what's going on the sort of imagery layer, it was believed that the people were dying because of the protectors of sacred space. Well, the sacred space was God's space. God was believed to be in the ark, and so therefore you've profaned, you've messed that up. So therefore you're going to pay the price. So they're protected from intrusion and pollution of these places. Individuals, small numbers, working together. They weren't particularly aggressive, but they could be if they wanted to be. They're just doing their job. So you going into a place and you get attacked by them, it's your fault because they're just doing their job. They're like the bodyguards. You know, you end up getting shot. It's because you've walked into an area that you shouldn't have been in. They were regarded as benevolent beings pretty much with theriomorphic imagery. Theriomorphic just basically means animals. If you ever see a Egyptian frieze mural, if it's got an animal head, it's one of these divine beings, and the animal head depicts what kind of being it is. Amemet, the crocodile, was one of these benevolent beings, but if you were weighed incorrectly, or you were weighed and found wanting at the judgment hall, then there would be no afterlife for you because this thing would eat you up. When we get to Mesopotamia, well, you've got the Utukku. And the Utukku were 1/3 human, 2/3 divine feminine, coming from Ishtar. Okay, so these were the demons, and they were only ever malevolent in Mesopotamia. They were different to the Etsamu. The Etsamu are basically 2/3 human, 1/3 divine being, and these were classed as human ghosts. So in ancient Mesopotamia, you've got a difference between demons and ghosts, human ghosts anyway. And because the Utukku are 2/3 divine, you can't kill them. You can only use magical practices to get them out of a place, but they can come back. Okay, so you'd also have this thing where if you didn't know the name of the demon, then you would kind of use a catch-all phrase, all evil. It's actually found in the Lord's Prayer, deliver us from evil. Yeah. So that was kind of the insurance policy against it. And so you might have heard of Lamashtu. Lamashtu, the baby snatcher. Lamashtu, if your child dies, sudden infant death syndrome, all that sort of thing, it would be blamed on Lamashtu. It would be the one that stole the breath, would creep around the doorways and that. You would try and protect them, ward them off. You'd have the Achachzu. I need to get more water. Could I have more water, please? Which was the grabber. So these were the ones, cheers, that would somehow, I don't know, could it be some sort of poltergeisty type things that's happening or whatever, I don't know. You'd have the Shulak, the lurker in the toilet. I've got 3 boys, I know all about that. Okay. And the Rabitsu, the croucher. Could that be the hag, the night hag? That's the sort of, I wonder, is that some sort of what was going on there? I'd have to research that. It's only kind of come to me since listening today and yesterday. Now, what did I think about Pazuzu? That was a question yesterday. This is Pazuzu, right? This is how they absolutely massacred him in the Exorcist. He really is one of the good guys in ancient Mesopotamia because he basically stopped Lamashtu from coming into the house. So you'd have these little statues buried in the walls and in the floors and that. When you get to ancient Greece, I'm going to have to whiz on. Basically, you've got the daimon, which is where we get the term demon from. And they were similar to the theoi, the gods, in sort of some respects, but distinct, according to Homer. There were different classes of them, but one of the classes was that they were intermediary beings between the gods and humans, according to Plato's Symposium. But deities could act as daimones because they could bring directly information to humans as well. And some of them were just the natural forces of the world, including fate and fortune. These were daimones. And human spirits. Now, this is the interesting thing. The most common use of daimones in the understanding of the 1st century CE is these are deceased humans. Okay, they're not non-human. In the general population, in the philosophers' stages, you'd have them as the gods of the nations and the intermediary beings. But generally speaking, pop culture of that time was that daimones were human beings, spirits. You'd have them for inspiration. So when you get in the classical times, you'd have guides and inspirations for humans. Socrates had a guiding demon. Nobody tried to exercise him. When you get to the Hellenistic times, sort of like 3rd century BCE up to sort of like 0, as it were, you get sort of this benevolence and malevolence starting to come in. The agatho daimon, these were the good guys. I love the next one, the kako daimon. Yeah, we've got the word kak. That's where it comes from. It's not pleasant, unpleasant. And you would use apotropaic magic to ward these things off. Then you get into the Hebraic Christian culture, and you've got this intersection going on. Now, it's very interesting because if you're used to sort of like understanding sort of Christianity, you kind of think, well, it's got an Old Testament and a New Testament. The Old Testament stuff doesn't have demons in. Not really. It's got the names in, name demon in, and it's got some names of certain particular characters in there. But when the Jewish belief system went on tour, as it were, and started to spread out from Israel, it went down to Alexandria. And the Alexandrians are going, well, the lingua greco, as it were, we want to translate it into Greek. So they took the certain aspects of things like Sheol, which is the Hebrew afterlife, underworld, and translated it as Hades. So this is kind of where there's, I've got a whole talk that goes on about that. But they've got to translate from Hebrew to Greek. They've got to take the ideas and translate them into what the ideas are of the readers of the culture that you're in. Problem is, in Greek literature, in Greek culture, you've already got this idea of an intermediary between the god and human beings called daimones. But that encompassed all of the gods. And they wanted a term that would actually be just for intermediaries between Yahweh and humans, the God of the Israelites. And they basically invented the term angel. They used messenger, angelos. And the rest were called demons, daimones. So you've got messengers from Yahweh are the angelos. The other ones are daimones. Now, I kind of had a little go through some of the different spirit beings that are in the Hebrew Old Testament. You've got the Shedim, which are the gods of the nations. These would be I tried to map them across what the different categories of daimones in Greek culture were. So class ones, the Shedim, Then you've got the bastards. These are the ones that are sort of like human and human fallen spirit being hybrid offsprings. You've got Lilith. Lilith actually appears in the Old Testament. It's just once. It's only when you get to medieval times that you get the idea of Lilith as the first wife of Adam. Before then, it's not. It was pretty much based on Lamashtu. I'm not even going to say this. You've got goat demons and all sorts of basic things. But then you've got these human spirits. The unquiet dead, the Etim, the travellers, the Oberim, the Ove. By the way, the Ove is the spirit that, if you know this, Saul and conjuring up Samuel at Endor, it is an Ove. It's an ancestral spirit that this woman has inside her that goes down into the underworld to summon up Samuel, the deceased prophet, and bring him back. And I did a whole pile of research on that as part of my master's stuff. You've got the royal dead, the Rephaim, not the sort of like particular historical people group, but the actual noble dead were called the Rephaim. And the Yidoni. These are kind of like fortune-telling. These are ones that transcend time and can bring back information, precognitive stuff. So demonology evolves massively between the Old Testament and the New Testament in this Second Temple period, it's called. They basically now, demons are only ever harmful, they're only ever evil, and they cause mental and physical illnesses. You've got the Pneuma Akathartos. These are human spirits. They infect a person, and they cause them mental health issues and other sorts of physical issues that result from the mental health issues. And they're called unclean spirits because they are ritually associated with the dead. So when you read these terms in the New Testament, these are human spirits. They're not non-human spirits. One of my chapters in my dissertation, my thesis, was about Legion. We all know Legion. It's become embedded in our culture in different ways, from Red Dwarf right the way down to sort of, well, I am Legion, for we are many. My thesis was, having done all the research and the background stuff, that these are actually deceased human warriors that have been killed by the Romans. And they have infected this guy who has been doing either necromantic rituals in the tombs or just basically being jumped on by these things, if the mindset is that these things could just jump on you and infect you. And it always kind of bothered me, this idea about 2,000 pigs and why Jesus would sort of like send them into the pigs, because actually that's what you did for your exorcistic practice, was to send the spirit into something else. It could even be a bowl of water or something, just to show that this had happened. My idea, actually, that I've gone through and I argued for was that these spirits are sticking it to the Romans because the Roman army functioned on pork. It was its main protein source. You've got a Roman legion nearby. What a better way to stick it to the Romans after they've killed you than to actually kill off their food source. Anyway, you could kind of read the analysis, all the background stuff for that. So finally, coming into the implications for today's paranormal investigation stuff. Okay, what do we mean when we use the word demon? Okay. We see Zach Bagans, etc., people talking about demons. What do we actually mean by that? Because that's got a whole pile of cultural baggage that we've picked up in modern times. Are these things benevolent or malevolent? Benevolent doesn't factor into today's idea of what a demon is. So it's really, we've got 1,800 years of cultural baggage in the West that has demonized the demon and made it such that these things are only non-human and only ever evil. And are we qualified as sort of like Bill Jones or whoever who's doing an investigation, are we qualified to say somebody has got a demon or not in their house. The worst thing that you can actually do is to say, oh, we think it's a demon. I look at these programs and I think, these guys, they've done their filming, they go off. What's the destruction that's left with these people that have been told, oh, you've got a demon in your house, because of all of the baggage that comes with that? And, you only have to look at the Michael Taylor of ASSAP case, where there was an exorcism taking place. It went on through the night. They got fed up. They got knackered, the vicar and his partner and that. They exorcised all but 2, allegedly, of these demons. One of them was the demon of murder. What does this guy go and do when, in the next day? Goes and basically literally rips the face off his wife, kills them, dices them up. You don't do that sort of stuff. And anyway, there's, as I said yesterday, vicarious liability. What if something goes wrong and you've said that there's a demon in a house? Yeah? And then something kicks off. In today's litigious society, you could be in trouble. So anyway, this is the kind of bibliography that I've been using. Sort of some of these. These are really good books. Finkel's First Ghosts. I love him. He's brilliant. He's such a good writer, and it is very accessible. Felton, the Greek stuff, very, very good. Heiser, he's recently deceased. He was a Semitic languages scholar, and he looked at demons from all sort of that aspect of time. Very good. And my favourite, I love this one, the DDD, the Dictionary of Deities and Demons in the Bible. If you want to look up a deity, you just pick it up. You look up a demon, you can look the word up. Azrael, all that sort of stuff. Brilliant. Expensive, but then, this is not Llewellyn Publishing, okay? This is kind of I think it's Brill. Brill. Brill are very, well, Brill are Brill. And with that, thank you very much.